I think recruiters are not going extinct. I think that if you're a recruiter who isn't using AI, you will be replaced by a recruiter who is using AI. That's all to say, I think that recruiters are evolving.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very, very first episode of the Recruitment Podcast by Recruit CRM. I am so excited for this. I'm Kate O'Neill, your host, and I'm here to bring you conversations with some of the best minds in recruitment. Get ready to dive into some really deep, interesting, and educational conversations on with everything recruitment. We're covering so many different subjects. Now that brings me to today's episode, where we will talk about the latest trend that I think has taken pretty much every industry by storm, which is AI. And I'm really pleased to have my friend Brian Fink here to talk to us about AI in recruitment and its impact on the human touch. So I'm going to start by introducing Brian, because that seems like the logical place to start.
I think that you really gave a pretty substantive kickoff. I'm excited that we're having a conversation, that we're leading off the conversation in 2025, that we're going to have a good year. And I'm excited about the impact that AI is going to fundamentally make as it revolutionizes recruiting, or continues to revolutionize recruiting. The only other thing that I would add is I just want to say, hey, Mom, if you're listening, I love you. And hey, Dad, I'll say hello to Dad too. But, you know, my mom is my biggest cheerleader, and I know she's going to listen to this. So I'll make sure that I watch my mouth, no potty tones.
Yeah, we're being good today. We're on best behavior. I need to be really careful. I'm terrible sometimes. But look, starting with artificial intelligence, 2024 saw a greater adoption of AI. So I think it's approximately 72% of companies, which is massive, have integrated AI into their operations in 2024. So that's last year. And that is a notable rise from around 50% in previous years. So, and I think that all came from Upwork, those figures. So it's been fully researched. So when it comes to recruitment as well, many recruiters are now using AI to sort things like resumes, or CVs, we call them in the UK, source candidates, even conduct like initial screening calls. But there is one common concern that is prevalent amongst all this buzz, I think, and that is the potential, and I know we've spoken about this before and we'll come to it again, is that potential of that lack of human touch. So let's get into it. I've got so much to ask you. So what tasks do you think AI handles well, and which ones should remain human-led?
All right, so I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently. I think that AI last year was really powerful, and it revolutionized the way that we recruit. I think it is going to change in 2025 the way Tinder changed dating. It's faster, it's more data-driven, it's prone to making a lot of people feel like a commodity. And I think that's the question that you're getting at. The future of AI and talent acquisition isn't just about automating tasks, and we're probably going to talk about that today. It's about fundamentally reshaping the candidate experience for the better. And this AI freight train, it is not slowing down. It is barreling through talent acquisition. It is going to be the most imminent force that we have, but it means a lot of things for job seekers and recruiters alike. I think that where we start is we start with the grunt work. And I think that's where a lot of people have adopted AI, is that AI has already automated the grunt work. You talked about screening resumes, stack ranking, keyword lookups. For me, it's scheduling interviews. For other people, it's conducting those initial assessments. It's using a tool to find out if a coder is legit at what they do. I think that this allows the recruiter to focus on strategy and relationships. Yeah. Let's be honest. We're also able to get done with work a hell of a lot earlier, right? But there's a catch. It's about the candidates. Is that being filtered through some kind of algorithm can feel really impersonal, like that feed that you get on X or that you get on Threads. I mean, imagine if you're a candidate and you've poured your soul into a cover letter, you didn't use AI to write it, only for it to be read by an algorithm, they can't really appreciate how carefully and how you crafted that pun about thinking inside the box or outside the box. The challenge for companies is then to harness AI's efficiencies while maintaining the human touch. So instead of blowing off work an hour or two earlier and hitting that happy hour, we should be investing that hour, that 2 hours to making sure that we're doing that extra outreach to the candidate, letting them know that there's a human in the machine.
Honestly, I think that is so important because you used the dating app analogy there. What's everybody referring to now is the good old days when it wasn't like that. And I think that's already kind of starting with AI anyway, isn't it? In some with some systems that are being put into place. So that human touch, people still want it, and we don't want to let that go. So I think what I wanted to find out from you as well is, what are some of the specific ways that you find or have seen where you can balance automation with that personal touch during the hiring process?
Oh, great call out. All right. So look, I think that AI can tailor the candidate experience like a Spotify playlist, serving up customized job recommendations, letting people know when they apply, hey, you may also be good for this job. Also, I think that AI can be a beneficial resource by giving specific interview prep tips, that if a person has applied for a technical project manager role with a specific company, you can use a tool like a Chat GPT using the search filter to find out what common questions an AWS or a Twitter ask, right? And those are things that I'm asking the recruiter to do so that they can make the candidate feel more special and send that customized interview prep guide to that candidate. Also, I think that one of the things that's really intelligent that we're not leveraging enough is follow-up emails, right? Like, It used to be the only way that you knew something was important was the red flag or the exclamation point. So, let's not kid ourselves. Those efforts are faux personalization, right? And it's an illusion. But what we really want to do is we want to get beyond those automated emails that say, we're excited about your application, because candidates are savvy enough to know that they're one of 1,000 recipients. Instead, to make this work, organizations have to leverage the humanizing touch points. Candidates, going back to the Spotify analogy, right? Candidates should feel like they're Beyonce at the Grammys, not just another act in the local karaoke night, right? Unless your karaoke night at SourceCon, because that was awesome and that was epic. Shout out to Jim and the team there. But I think that it really can help create a more humane experience by eliminating some of those activities that we talked about being grunt work. I think that it can lead to more personalized experiences. I think that there's an opportunity in 2025 for recruiters to start training AIs to identify and correct things like bias, not to perpetuate it. Because if you don't, you're just automating discrimination at scale, which is a disaster waiting to happen. Diversity and inclusion. If you were speaking to my friend Torrin Ellis, he would say that it requires human oversight, not just a degree in data science.
Yeah, I've actually watched a program we had on the BBC here. It was recommended to me by my friend Jo Major. So she's a DE&I coach and trainer.
Yeah.
They did a program on it here where it showed the realities of it and how dangerous it is. And actually it's making it worse. So you need that human touch to make sure that it's applied appropriately and that we are making sure that the right decisions are being made around that. So I'm glad you brought that up because it's so important.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think recruiters are not going extinct. I think that Glenn Cathy said it really well, that if you're a recruiter who isn't using AI, you will be replaced by a recruiter who is using AI. That's all to say, I think that recruiters are evolving.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you mentioned there about what we want to make sure is that it's, the human stuff we keep and we do, but there's obviously other functions where we can really use it effectively and it can save us time and all of that stuff. So how do you see sort of AI and automation supporting the recruiter's role instead of, I know you mentioned that you don't believe it's going to replace it. So what specifically would you think are the areas where you see it supported? It might be things you already do.
Well, so I think we talked about it a little bit in terms of scheduling and the fluidity that there, but I think AI really promises speed. A
Mm,
candidate applies and they get feedback within hours instead of weeks. One of the things that was really great about working at AWS is we had something called the 2 and 5 promise. I think this is pretty public knowledge on the website is that candidates are going to be updated within 2 days of a phone interview. They're going to be updated within 5 days of an in-person or a panel interview, right? So I think that AI, by pinging the hiring manager and incessantly pinging them and saying, I need feedback, you're getting that feedback within hours instead of weeks. But speed doesn't, and I want to be clear here because Steve Levy would, my mentor emeritus, Steve would say that speed doesn't always equal quality. A quick rejection still hurts people, and an automated one is even worse. So the
yeah.
key, again, is to ensure the candidate experience is human centered, even when it's AI powered. Companies that succeed, I believe that they're going to use AI to make candidates feel valued and not processed, right? Like nobody likes processed food, okay? So why would you want to be a processed candidate? Those that are going to fail at this very basic task about how you made a candidate feel, there no level of automation is going to save them from being perceived as being soulless. And at that point, it is going to supercharge the negativity that is driving what people are seeing for your employer brand. And it takes forever to build a respectable employer brand. I think if you had somebody, man, I'm doing a lot of shout outs today. Like, I think if you had one of my mates, a James Ellis, to talk to you about the future of AI and how it plays a specific role in that candidate experience, I think that would be another great guest for you to get on there and talk about how recruiting is not only going to be made faster and more efficient by AI and less biased, as I touched about earlier, but its core, it's still going to be about that one thing. It's going to be about connection. How do you build
Mm,
connection? No algorithm can replace that connection, right? So, like when
no.
I think about talent sourcing, and I made the reference to Spotify, Kate, Kate, I'm going to let you know, I checked you out on Spotify. I wanted to know what you listened to. I wanted to know what the intro and outro was going to be to our conversation, right? Because I think people bond through music, right? So if you were to go and look at somebody's Spotify playlist, you could get a good idea as to maybe what kind of message you should write them. That hasn't been automated yet, right? Like you don't want to be like, sorry you like 9 Inch Nails, but like maybe there's a commonality. Like I like to reach out to people who I've researched that I found out are Star Wars fans. Why? I'm a Star Wars fan. I can talk Star Wars all day. I may not be able to talk AI all day or Transformers all day. Transformers, not like the robots, but like Transformers, like the T and GPT. Um, but like I'm able to have a human conversation about whether Han shot first or not, right? About who the Jawas are, or whether Obi-Wan Kenobi is really Obi-Wan Kenobi, or if he's a clone, right? Like I'm able to have all
This is
these
all going
esoteric
right over my
conversations.
head.
It's all good. It's all good. It's
But
but
the
see
key
the
is there. You're connecting with that person over something that you share, and that
right.
relationship is being built, isn't it? Like that is so powerful.
It is. Now I could use AI and I could say to the AI, bring me back 25 candidates that mentioned Star Wars in their LinkedIn profile and in their Instagram bio, and I got my 25, and I can reach out to them with humanity about Star Wars and a passion that we share. This is great. This is what this is going to be referred to as Star Wars in 2025. Like that's going to be the title of this podcast. But the reality of it is that AI, if it's used properly as the future of recruiting, humanity still has a soul, and it's going to go two ways really, really well, meaning you're going to get to flex on your soul and you're going to use technology to not lose your touch, or you're going to end up in an abyss of poppycock. And everybody knows what word I meant to say instead of poppycock because I can't say a
You
dirty
did well
word
there.
on this
Well done.
podcast, right? Yeah.
Now, if you are wondering how to integrate AI without compromising the personal touch, everything that myself and Brian, well, Brian mainly, has been talking about today, um, Recruit CRM offers the ideal balance. Now, I'm not just sitting here telling you that because they've told me to. I use Recruit CRM as my CRM for my agency. So their AI features are designed to save recruiters time, and it saves me a hell of a lot of time as well at the moment, especially because I'm juggling 2 businesses. But the key for me is as well, the high quality interactions are maintained. That is not then second fiddle to the time being saved. So it's all about the quality and the human touch and the interactions. So for me, it's things like CV or resume parsing, candidate matching, automated email sequencing. Recruit CRM makes sure those processes are efficient and not robotic, which for me, I wouldn't use a platform if it was, because anyone that follows me on socials knows I'm not about that robotic approach. Plus their GPT-powered email writer, which I find it super useful, helps recruiters craft a personalized message, a compelling message that's effective communication really, really quickly. So yeah, so many great features. But we were talking about then things like follow-ups. So
yeah, like how do you build that rapport at scale? And I think that you just gave a really good use case for it for Recruit CRM. Is that candidates don't want to be robotic. They don't want algorithms to analyze their tone, right? Trying to build a rapport with a machine it's hard. I mean, we've seen the movie Her, we've seen Ex Machina, we know how that turns out, right? We know that AI can be a gatekeeper, but it shouldn't be the only voice a candidate hears. So if you think about it, when you're talking about these features that Recruit CRM provides, it provides an instantaneousness to the candidate. When I think about instantaneousness, I don't know how it is in the UK, but we're spoiled in the US where we have 2-day Amazon Prime shipping, right? And and when you think about the fact that like you have to order a package and it may not be there in 2 days, it may take longer than that, you kind of get frustrated. You're like, what's the point, right? And that's the same thing that happens with a canned rejection email or a canned email. The candidate experience and expectation, the bar is going to be raised by AI. It's going to create a truly seamless process, whether it's tracking applications, whether it's sending updates, even like I said, if it's offering those prep resources, right? Like you could have an email trigger set up that once you set up an interview, like I said, for that technical program manager, that it instantly sends them once they book the calendar appointment to do the interview. The follow-up is it says, I just wanted you to have these questions. These are going to be some of the questions that you're going to ask. I mean, like I said, candidates can start expecting the Amazon Prime of recruiting, instant updates, perfect matches, zero friction. And when something goes wrong, that's when a human gets to shine, okay? Because we don't remember the restaurant we went to where everything went right. We remember how somebody made us feel when things went wrong. So exactly, as the human, we get to make sure that the tech lives up to its promise and the expectation that it sets.
Yeah,
that's what I got on that. So
you've done the automated follow-up cell for me, but there's two more things I want to mention, and both of them I see as improving the candidate process, but also saving us time. So the one thing I find super useful, which did not exist 12 years ago when I started in recruitment, is the resume or CV parsing. Now, for me, that is a feature that improves the candidate experience, because look, I want to get on the phone to that candidate and give them that amazing conversation where we can get to know each other. I can find out what they want. If I quickly can just get their details, all the relevant information onto the CRM, it uploads it, it structures it, it gets all the manual data entry done for me and ensures accuracy. Time saved, I can get on the phone to the candidate, amazing, and it's accurate. I have used other CRMs where it's not been as accurate, but that one is. The second one, and you might wonder how I'm relating this to the candidate experience, but I'll explain, the job description generator. So we know how much time this takes, right? Writing a job.
Oh, dude, chasing hiring managers down to get a job description written. Like, oh, wow. I don't know what takes longer, budget approval, the decision to use an agency, or a job description. Like, honestly, I don't know.
Even when you get that info, right, typing it up can take ages. And for me, the job description is key, because I want a candidate to read that ad and enjoy it for starters, not be like, oh, another standard job ad, but also be attracted to apply and feel like they want to engage. And for me, having a job description generator there saves me time, obviously, but what it will look at is combining the role specific data, the industry benchmarks, obviously the user inputs as well, given a detailed professional description that's going to be great for the candidate, attract the right people, because what are we here for? To help people find jobs, to help people find their next amazing career move.
So
and the job description is so important.
I want to caveat that. I think that we are here to build people who want to build companies and solve complex problems. I don't
think... You said it
better than me. No, girl, whatever, man. Here's the deal, is that, Kate, we do not exist in a vacuum, right? Like, there has to be a reason, there has to be a problem that needs to be solved. Like, one of the problems that we're working at on McAfee, we came up with an application that's called the deepfake detector. This is where I'm going to plug McAfee for a quick second. Is the deepfake detector is an application that determines or can deter and realize in real time whether or not you're being hoaxed by a deep fake, right? So I think that's incredibly important. That's an incredible challenge to solve. That challenge doesn't attract everybody, right? It's only going to attract people that it resonates with. It's only going to attract the whole person, right? So a great candidate, you're right, they may lack a specific keyword. And this is where I want to drive back to one of the things that you left out about Recruit CRM, is that a resume doesn't always capture what the candidate did. And one of the things that can be seen between the lines with Recruit CRM and its automation is when you say grew revenues by 25%, led a team of developers, it knows it does the systematic natural language processing to really have resilience and creativity in that search, instead of just doing traditional keyword matching that you would get like a monster or something like that.
Yeah.
So what I really want is, I want to stress that if you're using an AI, you need to make sure that you're balancing efficiency with human intuition. And that goes back to the training of the AI, right?
Yeah. No, I wanted to ask you, because obviously a lot of what you've spoken about here as well is we've got to monitor some of these things, right? Because like you said, we don't want to even accidentally go, we've got to make sure that things are being monitored to make sure it's being executed properly. What sort of metrics or KPIs, anything like that, do you use to evaluate the success of the AI tools that you use in recruitment? Or have you heard of any that do it that way?
So real quick, I cannot speak to, I can speak to it, but I can't tell you what we're doing at McAfee, right? Like, from an AI tool perspective, our recruiting metrics or our KPIs, it's not for public discussion. But what I would say very tactfully is that recruiting is still about storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. So I can go and look, anybody can look on LinkedIn, right, and see how many people have applied to a job, right? Candidates want to feel inspired by a company's mission and values, right? They don't want it to be just limited to the job description and some data that deters them from applying. They want to be activated in such a way that they have emotional connection with the brand, with the company values, with the job description, with the responsibility, and with the problem they're trying to solve. I like to think that we need to think less like Siri and more like a TED Talk.
Yeah. I think that for me, it's like what you said about earlier. People remember when they've had a bad restaurant experience, that really sits with them. And for me, it's always been about any interaction that a candidate has with me, when they put that phone down or when they close that email that they've read from me, that they feel good. There's a smile, they feel that feeling inside. And therefore, like you just said, any sort of opportunities I talk to them about with whatever clients, I'm able to bring that to life enough for them. Now, that might not be an opportunity for them. That exact one might not be their choice. But if it is, they can get a real feel. It's like you said, the storytelling. They're imagining themselves working there already. They're picturing that culture, those values.
But that's a great call out that's a great call out, Kate, is that if a candidate hears the story and they don't see themselves as the hero of the story, then that's not the right job for them. If they see themselves as the hero at the company, that's the right company. And that creates a different experience, because then you have somebody who's bought into your culture. You just have to find a place for them to fit, and a challenge and a complex and challenge maybe for them to solve at scale in their organization, right? And that's the human element of recruiting, right? Recruiters should absolutely, if anybody, like, big takeaway, guys, use AI to handle logistics while focusing your energy on creating a compelling narrative, okay? Add the human layer. Don't simply put recruiting on autopilot. It will be a disaster.
Oh, yes. It would. How can recruiters ensure AI doesn't unintentionally filter out great qualified candidates? Does it come back to the training piece that you were talking about, or is there other things people can do?
So I think it's three things, really. Okay. And I don't want to come across as big brother, but companies should use AI-driven outreach to spark the conversation, to get the conversation started, not to send, and I've said this, like, I talk about Star Wars, like, that's a genuine conversation. I'm not sending a generic message to start a generic marriage. I want this to be very specific and very intentional. I want AI maybe to tee up the connection, but recruiters need to close the deal with authenticity. I do not want to get away from that, right? So as we speak to that, the 3 points that I want to make is that AI-powered networking, it's great. You're already doing it on LinkedIn. You're already looking at suggestions of people that you should be talking to that may be a fit for a role that you're working with, or a connection of another connection, right? Candidates, this may feel invasive to them. Imagine getting pitched for a job that you didn't apply for based on, like, the college course that you took with Sarah, who sat 3 rows down from you. That would be super weird, right? Yeah. The reality of it is that what we have to do is that we have to allow, and allow is the key word, and this is the second prong. We have to allow AI to transform us into a highly efficient operation. That does not mean that we're losing the heart of what we do. It only means we're accentuating the personal touch, and we're bringing people in to the fold in a deeper, more meaningful, more authentic way. And lastly, I would say, number 3, create a partnership with your AI. Okay. Like, I know I'm sounding very science fiction-y and very weird, but, like, let your AI be your C3PO. Let it be your C3PO is the gold droid, Kate, that translates.
I do know that one.
Okay. That translates into over 80 million languages around the globe. I speak basic galactic. Let it be the translator, but don't let it drive the conversation. And there ends the C3. I'm really excited that I was able to make a Star Wars metaphor today. That is kudos.
Well
kudos
executed.
To you, Kate. Yeah, I'm like, okay, let's go.
And really quickly, last question, and this is one I think, especially people that are listening that are maybe more that are leading people, supervisors, managers, whatever. What steps do you think organizations should take to train recruiters to work effectively with AI tools? Because we can just run away with ourselves on this, can't we?
Okay. That's a good last question, right? I don't think it should be just limited to recruiters. I think that it should also be linked between recruiters and the hiring managers that they're responsible for. I think that AI is evolving to meet the needs of this new hybrid recruiter that we've talked about, tangentially in the conversation, the robo recruiter. What I think we need to focus on is making sure that AI literacy becomes a core competency. I think we need to understand the fundamentals of AI, like how it works, what that word transformer is. No, I don't expect you to know algorithms, like that is not it. But I think you need to bring in resources and identify where bias may exist in AI tools. I think that you need to be especially vigilant in evaluating the accuracy and the relevancy of AI generated recommendations on some of those networks. I think that number 2, blended training models. dude or dudette, sorry, Kate, is that you've got the opportunity to allow AI to look at the transactional work, but recruiters need to bring their A game and they need to get on the phones, they need to get on text and understand those soft skills, negotiation, relationship building, cultural assessment.
Yes.
All the keyword matching tools in the world are not going to do that, right? And then, I referenced Glenn Cathy in the top of this conversation. I also want to shout out to the original AI recruiter, Mike Wolford. Is that I think you need to take some of these real-time AI coaching for recruiters classes that are either offered asynchronously or offered as one-off by Mike or by Glenn. You can access all of the AI recruiter classes and certifications on LinkedIn. I know through the end of 2024, I don't know how it's going to be in 2025, but through the end of 2024, you can get the certifications at no cost. I encourage people to explore that and to share what they've learned. And then I think that also recruiters need to learn how to interpret data really well. Like if Mike Wolford was sitting here with me, he's got a new book out. It's called The AI Analyst. And I think that it delves into how recruiters need to make candidate-centric decisions based on analytics, market trends, and engagement metrics, remembering that the data is really only as good as what is the person interpreting it, not just as good as the data we see.
Yeah.
So to recap that, I would say AI literacy, super recruiter, the cyber recruiter, the robo recruiter, AI coaching with Glenn and Mike, and then data interpretation skills. Make sure you pick up that book. I'm looking for it in my office. The AI Analyst by Mike Wolford. I would go deep on those areas and index there.
Yeah, no, some really good recommendations there, and I think so. I've been holding that cough in for ages. A lot of food for thought throughout the whole episode, and I think, like, I know myself, I've still got a lot to learn with AI. I've genuinely learned a lot from speaking with you today. So thank you so much for coming on. We're actually, with that, at the end of our first episode.
Dude.
So,
okay. All right. Done and dusted.
Thank you so much for being the very first guest. But today we've covered that dual nature of AI in recruitment, its power to streamline, but also I think the key takeaway from this conversation today is that need to preserve humanity. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with us to the end of the episode. If you found this helpful, which I'm sure that you have, we would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find Brian's profile in the description. Mine's in there as well. So while you're there, feel free to give us a follow, connect with us. And if you're looking for more recruitment insights, I've got in the description as well, you've got both my websites on there for my coaching and recruitment business. So all of it is linked below. But most importantly, if you were listening throughout and thinking, actually, I want to learn more about these AI features with Recruit CRM, you can either head over to the website, which is recruitcrm.io, or there's also a link to get a demo in the caption as well, which is free, and it is really worth having a play around on because it's great. I'm not just saying that, I use it. But thank you for joining us. In our next episode, I'm going to have the one and only Leisha Holmes on with me. Do not miss it.
Man, I went before she. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, the one and only Leisha, she's coming on with me. I'm looking to the right because I'm just reminding myself what we're talking about. We are going to be talking about what do the best recruiters do well? What are their behaviours? So we are going to be talking all about that next episode. So do not miss it. Thank you, Brian, for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks for having me.
We will see you all soon. Let's wave it out.
All right.